The Cursed Drum of the Forest. Part 4. The Spirit's Legacy. Olautan sat quietly in the village square, the silver drum resting beside him. The villagers were still celebrating, singing songs of joy and relief. The curse was broken, the spirits were gone. But deep inside his heart, Olautan was not at peace, because something still didn't feel right. Ajaka's spirit is free, but where did he go? Baba Odan noticed his troubled face. The old man sat beside him, watching the fire flicker in front of them. "You are thinking too much, my son," Baba Odan said gently. Olautan sighed. "I should be happy, Baba. The village is safe, but I feel like this is not over." Baba Odan looked at the silver drum, his wise eyes thoughtful. "You are right to feel that way," he said. "Ajaka is free from the drum, but his spirit has nowhere to go." Olautan looked up. "What do you mean?" Baba Odan poked the fire with a long stick, watching the flames dance. "When a spirit is freed, it must find a new home. If it does not, it will wander. And sometimes, a wandering spirit is even more dangerous than a trapped one." Olautan's stomach tightened. "So Ajaka is still out there?" Baba Odan nodded. "And until we know where he has gone, we cannot rest." The celebration around them continued, but Olautan no longer felt like celebrating. He had won the battle, but maybe the war was not over. That night, Olautan couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned on his mat, his mind racing with thoughts. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ajaka's face, not as a spirit, but as a man trapped and betrayed. "I was cursed for something I did not understand. I was punished for a mistake." The words echoed in his mind. And then, a soft whisper. Olautan's eyes snapped open. He sat up quickly, his heart pounding. His hut was dark and quiet, but outside, the wind was not normal. It was calling his name. "Olautan." He grabbed the silver drum, holding it close. His hands felt sweaty. He knew that voice. It was Ajaka. Slowly, Olautan stood up and stepped outside. The village was asleep. The night was cool, the moon shining brightly above. But something was wrong. The wind moved strangely, circling around him, whispering in a language not of this world. And then, a shadow appeared at the edge of the village. Olautan's breath caught in his throat. It was Ajaka. But this time, he was not a monster. He was a man again. His body was no longer made of darkness. His face was visible, strong, proud, but full of pain. His eyes glowed faintly, like the last embers of a dying fire. Olautan stepped forward. "Ajaka?" The spirit nodded slowly. "You freed me," he said. His voice was no longer layered, no longer terrifying. It was calm. Olautan swallowed hard. "I did." Ajaka's face did not look happy. "Then why do I still feel trapped?" Olautan's hands tightened around the drum. I don't know." Ajaka's expression darkened. "My body is gone. My past is gone. And now I have nowhere to go." The wind blew softly around them, carrying Ajaka's sorrow through the air. Olautan felt a deep sadness in his heart. Ajaka had spent centuries trapped inside a cursed drum. Now he was free. But he had no home, no family, no people, no place in this world. "What do you want from me?" Olautan asked softly. Ajaka's glowing eyes met his. "I want a home," he said. "I want my name to be remembered, not feared. I want peace." Olautan nodded slowly. "I will help you." The next morning, Olautan gathered Baba Odan and the elders. He told them everything. About Ajaka's return, about his sadness, about his wish for a new home. The elders listened carefully. Then, Baba Odan stood up. "The spirits do not belong in our world," he said. "But we cannot turn him away. He has suffered enough." Olautan looked up. Then what can we do? Baba Odan stroked his beard. There is a way, he said. A final ritual. If done correctly, we can give Ajaka a proper resting place. A place where he will no longer wander. Olautan's chest filled with hope. But, Baba Odan warned, this ritual must be done carefully. If we make a mistake, Ajaka's spirit may become lost forever. Or worse, he may become cursed again. Olautan nodded. Then we must do it right. Baba Odan smiled. You are truly brave, my son. The village of Odogbo was at peace once more. For the first time in generations, the whispers of Ajo Orun, the forbidden forest, had gone silent. The drum was no longer cursed. The spirits were no longer angry. And Ajaka was finally at rest. Or so they thought. Days passed. Then weeks. Life in Odogbo returned to normal. The farmers tilled their land. The hunters roamed the forests. The women fetched water from the river and told stories in the evening. Olautan thought the nightmares would stop, but they didn't. Every night, he dreamed of the drum. Not the silver drum he'd taken from the shadow world, the old drum, the one from the forbidden forest, the one he'd played. In his dreams, he saw it sitting in the darkness, waiting. He heard its deep, slow beat. Dome! Dome! The sound called to him. Every time he woke up, he was drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. Something was wrong, but he didn't know what. Until the night of the storm. The sky was black with clouds. Lightning flashed, splitting the sky in half. Thunder rolled, shaking the very ground. Olautan sat in his hut, staring at the silver drum that lay beside his mat. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Then, a voice whispered in the wind. Olautan! His breath caught in his throat. Slowly, he turned his head. And there, standing in the corner of his hut, was a figure cloaked in shadows. Olautan scrambled backward, his hands shaking. Who are you? The figure did not move. Its face was hidden beneath a dark hood. Then, it spoke. You freed one spirit, the voice whispered, but the forest holds many more. Olautan's heart pounded in his chest. What do you mean? He asked. The figure took a step closer. Ajaka was the first, it said, but he was not the only one trapped by the drum. Olautan felt a cold chill run down his spine. There are others, the voice continued, and they are still waiting. Olautan's hands curled into fists. Waiting for what? He asked. The shadow lifted its head slightly, revealing two glowing eyes. To be freed. Then, the wind howled, the hut shook, and the shadow vanished. Olautan sat there, frozen. The storm raged outside, and deep inside his heart, he knew the drum's story was far from over. The next morning, Olautan went straight to Baba Odan. He told him about the shadowy figure, about the warning, about the spirit still trapped inside the drum. Baba Odan listened carefully, his face serious. Then he sighed. I was afraid of this, he said. Olautan frowned. You knew? Baba Odan nodded. Ajaka was the strongest spirit, he said. But the drum did not just hold him. It has been used for centuries to trap those who angered the law. Olautan's stomach tightened. How many? He asked. Baba Odan's eyes darkened. Many, he said. Too many. Olautan's fists clenched. Then we must free them. Baba Odan placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Not so fast, my son, he said. Releasing spirits is not a simple thing. Not all of them will be like Ajaka. Some will be dangerous. Olautan swallowed hard. But if we don't free them, they will remain trapped forever. Baba Odan nodded. Yes, he said. And that is why we must be careful. The elder turned and walked to a wooden chest in the corner of his hut. Slowly, he opened it and pulled out something wrapped in old cloth. When he unwrapped it, Olautan's breath caught in his throat. It was a stone tablet, covered in ancient symbols. "What is this?" Olautan asked. Baba Odan's face was grim. "This," he said, "is the map of the imprisoned spirits." Olautan stared at the tablet. The symbols were glowing faintly, as if waking from a long sleep. And in the center of the tablet was the cursed drum. Olautan traced the carvings on the stone. There were 7 symbols surrounding the drum. "What do these mean?" he asked. Baba Odan sighed. "Each one represents a spirit that was trapped," he said. 7 in total. Ajaka was only the first. Olautan's heart pounded. "Then that means there are 6 more?" Baba Odan nodded. "And if what you say is true," he said, "they are still waiting to be freed." Olautan exhaled deeply. He had thought the journey was over, but now it was only just beginning. Baba Odan placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You are not alone in this, my son," he said. "If we are to free these spirits, we must do it together." Olautan nodded slowly. "But where do we start?" The elder's eyes twinkled with wisdom. "We start where it all began," he said. Olautan swallowed. He already knew the answer. "Ajo Orun," he whispered, "the forbidden forest." Olautan traced the carvings on the stone. There were 7 symbols surrounding the drum. "What do these mean?" he asked. Baba Odan sighed. "Each one represents a spirit that was trapped," he said. 7 in total. Ajaka was only the first. Olautan's heart pounded. "Then that means there are 6 more?" Baba Odan nodded. "And if what you say is true," he said, "they are still waiting to be freed." Olautan exhaled deeply. He had thought the journey was over, but now it was only just beginning. Baba Odan placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone in this, my son," he said. "If we are to free these spirits, we must do it together." Olautan nodded slowly. "But where do we start?" The elder's eyes twinkled with wisdom. "We start where it all began," he said. Olautan swallowed. He already knew the answer. "Ajo Orun," he whispered. "The forbidden forest. The home of the cursed drum. The home of the cursed drum." The night was quiet, but Olautan couldn't sleep. The knowledge of the 6 remaining spirits weighed heavily on his chest. The drum had called to him once, leading him into danger. Now, it was silent. But its silence was not comforting. It was waiting. Waiting for him to decide. Waiting for him to act. Waiting to be played again. Olautan woke at dawn. Baba Odan was already waiting outside, his staff planted firmly in the ground. Beside him stood Ekun and a small group of warriors, Jagun, Tade, and 2 others. "You are truly going back into the forest?" Ekun asked, his face pale. Olautan nodded. "We have no choice." Jagun, the strongest of the warriors, frowned. "The spirits may not be as kind as Ajaka. Some may be evil." Olautan tightened his grip on the silver drum slung across his back. "Then we will face them," he said. Baba Odan nodded approvingly. "Let us waste no time." Together, they set off toward Ajo Orun, the forbidden forest. And as they walked, the wind carried whispers once again. They reached the forest just as the sun rose above the horizon. The moment they stepped inside, the air grew heavy, thick with unseen energy. The trees watched them, their twisted branches curling toward the sky. The ground shivered beneath their feet. Then, a roar shook the trees. Jagun pulled out his spear. "Something is here." A figure emerged from the mist, a giant, its body made of stone and wood, its eyes glowing bright orange. It was one of the spirits. "Who dares enter my domain?" The spirit boomed. "I am Odajinmi, the guardian of secrets, the first prisoner of the drum." Olautan stepped forward. We are here to set you free. Odajinmi's eyes narrow. Lies. The drum does not free. It only takes. And with a mighty stomp, he attacked. The warriors jumped back, their spears ready. Olautan felt his heart race. I must play the drum, he thought. He quickly unslung the silver drum from his back and struck it with his palms. Dome! The ground trembled. Odajinmi froze, his stone-like body shaking. His orange eyes flickered. Doom! The drum's sound filled the forest. The spirit groaned in pain, holding his head. I remember now. His mighty arms fell to his sides. The glow in his eyes dimmed. The drum was my prison. I was betrayed. Olautan kept playing, his hands steady. Odajinmi let out a long breath. His body began to crumble, turning into golden dust. Thank you, mortal, he whispered. Tell the others, we do not belong here. And with that, he vanished. One spirit was free. 6 remained. For the next 7 days, Olautan and his companions traveled through Ajo Orun, encountering each of the trapped spirits. Each one had a story of betrayal. Each one had been bound by the cursed drum, and each one had to be freed. The second spirit, Ajay, the mother of wealth. A woman dressed in gold, once a goddess of prosperity, now reduced to a spirit who lured men into the forest with promises of riches. I only wanted to share my gifts, but they feared my power. With a beat of the silver drum, she was set free. The third spirit, Essia, the warrior who never fell. A proud fighter, cursed for refusing to bow to a jealous king. They thought they could bury my name, but I am still here. Olautan's drum restored his honor and his soul. The fourth spirit, Ioe, the keeper of knowledge. A wise elder who had tried to warn of the drum's curse and was sealed within it for his wisdom. You have done what many feared. You seek the truth. You are worthy. As the drum played, he disappeared into the wind, finally at peace. The fifth spirit, Orun, the trickster. A playful spirit, known for riddles and mischief, who had been trapped for outwitting a king. Freedom at last! I will not waste it. With a final beat, he was gone. The sixth spirit, Abana, the forgotten one. A child, the youngest spirit, cursed simply because she was born with eyes that could see the future. I see a better world, now. A world without this drum. Her gentle laughter faded into the wind. Only one spirit remained. As Olautan walked deeper into the forest, he felt a presence watching him. The trees whispered his name. The wind howled softly, and then he saw it. The original cursed drum, still sitting at the heart of Ajo Orun, and beside it, a shadowy figure, tall, silent, waiting. Olautan stepped forward. Who are you? He asked. The figure turned. I, it said, am the one who created the drum. Olautan stiffened. The one who cursed it? The figure nodded. And now, you will end what I started. Olautan's hands tightened around the silver drum. He knew what to do. Slowly, he raised his hands, and for the final time, he played. Dome! The forest shuddered. The old drum cracked. The shadow let out a long sigh. At last, it is over. And then, the drum shattered into dust. When Olautan stepped out of the forest, the sun was rising. Baba Odan and the warriors waited for him, their faces filled with relief. It is done, Olautan said. The silver drum was now empty. Ajo Orun was finally at peace. For the first time in hundreds of years. The drum was silent, and it would remain that way forever. The final spirit was gone. Olautan returned to the village a changed man. The elders declared him a hero. Songs were sung in his name. But Olautan never sought fame or fortune. Instead, he became a guardian of stories. ensuring that the tale of the cursed drum would never be forgotten. And though the whispers of the forest had faded, sometimes, late at night, when the wind blew through the trees, it almost sounded like the soft beat of a drum, a reminder, a warning, the end. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale of the cursed drum of the forest, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more legendary stories from African folklore. Your support helps keep these incredible tales alive. Hit the like button if you love a good mystery. Share this story with friends and family who enjoy ancient legends. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another epic tale. There are so many more stories waiting to be told, and I can't wait to share them with you. Let me know in the comments which African folktale you want to hear next. Thanks for being part of this journey. Your support means everything. A legend that would never die.